It's Thursday, July 20th, and this is now on HNN. New at noon, it's sentencing day for a former labor leader who used union dues to fund a lucrative lifestyle for himself and his family. How long will Brian Ahakuelo spend in federal prison?
An arrest has been made in connection to a fatal shooting at a McCully bar.
A possible third indictment against former President Trump, this one related to January 6th and the 2020 election, could come soon. I'm Natalie Brand with what we've learned about potential charges.
These stories, plus NOAA releases its findings in the investigation of a monk seal pup death on Oahu's North Shore. Details coming up on This Is Now.
Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here on This Is Now. We begin today with a live look out over Hilo, a completely different story from what it looked like yesterday. We're going to talk about the lingering impacts from what was Tropical Storm Calvin in just a little bit. But first, let's get to some news of the day.
Yeah, it's sentencing day for a former labor boss who was convicted of using union dues to fund his family's lavish lifestyle. Now, Brian Ahakuelo will serve 11 years and 8 months in federal prison, plus he must pay $209,000 in restitution. After his sentence was delivered, the 62-year-old told the court, quote, "I made mistakes in my life. Some of those mistakes have hurt other people," end quote. Back in November, Ahakuelo was found guilty of 70 counts of conspiracy, wire fraud violations, money laundering, and embezzlement of union assets. As IBEW Local 1260's business manager, he put 5 of his family members on the union's payroll at 6-figure salaries. Federal authorities also say Ahakuelo rigged a union vote in 2015 to raise membership dues to fund this lavish lifestyle. Ahakuelo must also pay $209,000 in restitution. His wife Marilyn was sentenced in March to 5 years and 10 months in federal prison. Also in court today, the trial of Eric Thompson continues. He's accused of killing his wife's alleged lover at the victim John Tokuhara's Waipahu business. Prosecutors are still laying out their case against him. We'll have much more on this story coming up in later editions of Hawaii News Now.
Police have identified the suspect arrested on suspicion of murder following a deadly shooting at a McCully bar. 44-year-old Myron Takushi now faces a second-degree murder charge and firearms offenses. He was arrested yesterday in the Kapahulu area. Takushi and the 49-year-old victim allegedly got into an argument at the 2012 bar on South Baratania Street, which then escalated just before 1 a.m. Wednesday morning. Witnesses described what they heard.
It sounded like fireworks, just pop, 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 pop. Nothing like this has happened before. There's been fights, but nothing like this.
The victim was hit multiple times and was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Takushi remains in police custody.
The Department of Hawaiian Homelands is urging homesteaders in Waimea and Kauai Heights to conserve water because of malfunctioning water wells in North Hawaii. The 2 wells owned and operated by Kohala Ranch temporarily lost service Wednesday morning. Service is anticipated to be restored in the near future as soon as repairs are completed. The malfunction impacts 165 lessees and their household members. DHHL is also asking residents to refrain from using water for outdoor irrigation uses for the time being.
Now to an update on the defueling of Red Hill. Tank tightness testing is now complete on all storage and surge tanks there. While these have been done twice a year, we're told this is likely the last round of these tests before the defueling and closure of the facility. This round was especially important to make sure the main defueling effort is safe to proceed in October. Meanwhile, about 86% of the fuel in the surge tanks has been drained so far. New at noon, the Kauai Fire Department has ruled the cause of a structure fire in Kalaheo yesterday morning as accidental. KFD said firefighters arrived just before 6:20 a.m. to a home on Papalino Road. Flames were spotted through a second-story window and firefighters quickly attacked the flames. The homeowner was home at the time, but no injuries were reported. Officials said thanks to the quick action of firefighters, the flames were contained to a small area on the second floor of the building. Damages to the structures and contents were estimated at $1,000.
Tropical storm Calvin may be gone, but some impacts are still being felt. Take a look at this video into our newsroom. This is Waianui Falls in Hilo. That's Tuesday on the left and Wednesday on the right. Also, look out for swollen streams and dirty runoff across the state, especially in East Hawaii. Maui's Wailuku River in Iao Valley is also full of brown water, but no major damage was reported on either island. Schools, campsites, and government officers were closed for the day, but many businesses stayed open.
We just played it off like it was a normal day, for sure. Like, a lot of places are closed today, but we figure people need food, we're gonna do it. And if worse comes to worse, we'll just take the tent down, but we're still open.
We were all prepared, we were all working, we went through our precautions, kind of like a football practice. But this is gonna be a pretty busy season, and so hopefully our community was able to start getting their preparedness kits ready and getting ready for the next time, because we have a feeling that this won't be the only time this year.
Hawaii County bus service resumes today and all county offices will be back open. The governor says all the preparations for Calvin were good practice.
This was a good reminder. If we'd had a direct hit, it would have been necessary to have 2 weeks of water, 2 weeks of food, 2 weeks of medication to be ready. So we're grateful to have had this first run.
Forecasters predicted there would be 4 to 7 named storms in the Central Pacific this hurricane season, which stretches through November.
A day after nurses and certified nurse assistants ended a 7-day strike at the Oahu care facility, both sides returned to the bargaining table in a bid to reach a new deal. Ben Gutierrez reports.
The nurses and certified nursing assistants who went on strike still don't have a new contract, but their union says that week-long walkout at least got both sides back to the bargaining table. After a week of picketing in Mo'ili'ili, 30 nurses and CNAs with the Hawaii Nurses Association are back on the job at Oahu Care Facility. No new contract yet, but the union says it had 2 bargaining sessions today with management.
We were, not sure if they were going to come back or they were going to accept proposals from us. And so now that we've gone through the 7 days, they were willing to have more conversations about the nurses' contract.
The nurses claim Pacific Skilled Healthcare, which took over ownership 5 months ago, proposed wage cuts for senior nurses and bargained in bad faith. Despite its relatively small footprint on South Beretania Street, the facility has 82 beds.
So we are talking about critical bed space that's needed by the hospitals and others who need to move people along to different levels of care.
Hawaii is already facing a nursing shortage. The nurses' union says the new owner hasn't been able to fully staff the facility because below-market wages make it difficult to recruit and retain staff, resulting in excessive overtime to cover shifts.
They're one of the lowest paid in the state. It's hard to compete with the other facilities. So that's really what they're looking for.
We cannot allow these beds to go unstaffed, because as these beds go unstaffed, then you're creating larger pressures on the rest of the system.
We contacted Oahu Care Facility for a response and comment, but haven't heard back yet. More bargaining sessions are scheduled again next week, Monday for the CNAs and Wednesday for the nurses. Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
New York City has agreed to pay more than $13 million to settle a civil rights lawsuit brought on behalf of roughly 1,300 people who were arrested or beaten by officers with the New York Police Department during racial injustice demonstrations in the city during the summer of 2020. If approved by a judge, the settlement, which was filed in Manhattan Federal Court Wednesday, would be among the most expensive payouts ever awarded in a lawsuit over mass arrests, according to experts. The lawsuit focused on 18 of the many protests that erupted in New York City in the week following the killing of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer. With certain exceptions, people arrested or subjected to force by NYPD officers at those events will each be eligible for $9,950 in compensation, according to attorneys for the plaintiffs.
This is, we believe, the largest settlement in terms of amount of money to people impacted for protesters ever in this country. It's about $13.7 million directly to people who were falsely arrested and injured by the NYPD.
These folks, just like thousands and thousands and thousands of others, took to the streets to protest police violence, and they were met with more police violence.
The agreement, one of several stemming from the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests, allows the city to avoid a trial that could be both expensive and politically fraught.
The federal grand jury weighing whether to indict former President Trump for his role in the January 6th Capitol attack and his alleged role in overturning the 2020 election met today. Natalie Brand has more on the possible charges.
With a possible indictment from a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. looming, former President Donald Trump lashed out against the special counsel's investigation into his actions following the 2020 election and posted a video rallying supporters.
We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country.
A senior Trump source tells CBS News the target letter received by the former president cites 3 federal statutes: conspiracy to defraud the U.S., deprivation of rights under color of law, which applies when someone uses power to deny constitutional rights, and witness tampering and obstruction of an official proceeding.
This is big criminal exposure for the president if, in fact, an indictment is filed.
CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson says a target letter typically indicates an investigation is in its final stages.
The prosecution has interviewed so many witnesses, looked at so much documentary evidence. If they bring these charges, it means they absolutely believe that they can prove this beyond a reasonable doubt.
Over the past year, the Justice Department has talked to members of the former president's inner circle, from White House aides to former Vice President Mike Pence. They've also interviewed various state officials.
Arizona's former governor is among those who have been contacted, according to a spokesman. Republican Doug Ducey says he received a call from then-President Trump while certifying the state's 2020 election results. If Trump is charged, it will be his 3rd criminal indictment as he continues to be the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
NOAA has revealed the suspected cause of death for endangered Hawaiian monk seal RS-48. Her Hawaiian name being Ho'omaulehua, NOAA officials said based on lab tests, she likely died from a dog attack. The nearly 4-month-old pup was found dead on the north shore of Oahu on June 12, 2023. Officials are still offering a reward in a separate case in which monk seal Malama was intentionally killed at a West Oahu beach. The cause of death there was blunt force trauma. Contact NOAA with any information.
On Maui, Mahipono paid a nearly $10,000 fine for a fugitive dust violation. A state health department report says agricultural operations and the wind generated dust from Mahipono's fields last August and December. It says it cited the farming company after complaints and an investigation by the department's Clean Air branch. Mahipono told us it continues to refine its protocols to minimize impacts from the dust.
Meanwhile, on Oahu, Mayor Blangiardi signed 2 bills into law centered on offering relief for homeowners. Bill 37 raises the threshold income for eligible property tax credit from $60,000 to $80,000, and Bill 40 increases general and kupuna home exemptions by $20,000. The adjustments are in response to inflation and aimed at keeping Hawaii residents from moving away.
We lost 14,000 people last year. That's on par with about 1% of our overall population statewide. That's an unacceptable number. So everything we can do to create better affordability for people as an incentive to stay here and not give up and leave.
For more information on the changes, head to realpropertyhonolulu.com.
On a new episode of The Debrief, we're tackling one of Hawaii's biggest challenges, the shortage of affordable housing. Digital producer Emily Cristobal spoke with lawmakers who spearheaded efforts that Governor Green recently signed into law.
Housing in Hawaii is one of the top issues the state is trying to tackle, and we're already seeing this with Governor Josh Green issuing an emergency proclamation to streamline new developments. I spoke with State Senator Stanley Chang and State Representative Troy Hashimoto about their plans in housing current residents and Hawaii's future generations. Here's a listen into that conversation.
The reality is, I've never heard anyone say, well, if we have 10,000 homes to build a year, then we should pave over the 2,500 acres of undeveloped land every year in order to build those homes. That's 2,500 acres a year, every single year, forever. and not just on Oahu, but on all of the islands. And I think we can all agree, Emily, that the natural habitats for our indigenous and endangered species, the food production capacity of the state of Hawaii in our agricultural lands are very important, and we should not be contemplating throwing all of that away just to build thousands of acres of suburban sprawl every year. And so that's why I think the real answer is to concentrate that development in the urban core where the transportation infrastructure has already been built at dear cost to Hawaii taxpayers.
And I think the biggest other barrier for a lot of this development, especially if we want density, is obviously infrastructure. And I think along the areas that we want to develop, that is actually what is slowing down a lot of our development, is because we don't have enough sewer capacity, we do not have enough electrical capacity. And I think now more than ever, because of this Red Hill issue, and it's always been an issue on the neighbor islands, is water capacity. Right? And so even if we wanted to build a whole lot very quickly, we don't have the fundamental things in place to allow that to happen. And so I think the strategy now moving forward is that the state and the counties really want to try and be strategic in trying to pick up some of that infrastructure cost, because historically, that's really what the county and state should be doing.
And we definitely delve more into this topic on the debrief, where we also answer what actionable plans are in the works to house and keep locals living in Hawaii. And because this is such an important issue, this is just part one of the housing discussion on the debrief. You can scan the QR code for more on the story, and I hope you tune in tomorrow for part 2. This is Emily Cristobal for Hawaii News Now.
Much of the country is in the midst of an extreme heat wave. As Danya Backus tells us, the extreme temperatures are not only bad for our bodies, but also vehicles.
The summer sun can beat down on our cars and lead to a breakdown. That's why it's important to make sure engine oil and other fluids are full, including coolant, which prevents overheating.
The cooling system for the car is crucial.
Crucial. Probably equally as important as the engine oil.
Dave Skane from AAA says keeping tires properly inflated is also crucial.
Underinflated tires concentrate pressure on the inner and outer edge of the tire, which causes a heat buildup here, and when you're driving in hot climates, that heat buildup on the corners of the tire, on the edges of the tire by the sidewall, can lead to sudden blowouts and tire failure.
In the heat, a car's interior can reach extreme temperatures and damage some devices like cell phones. Vinyl and leather seats can also get very hot.
If you've got a hot interior and you have access to a towel or something you can lay over your seat to keep it a little cool, so when you get in it and sit down, you're not sitting on a blazing hot seat, that'll be helpful for driver comfort.
Skane suggests keeping an emergency kit in your vehicle with water, jumper cables, first aid supplies, and a portable battery charger for devices.
When your car has a problem and you're stranded, a lot of times you can't run the engine, so you can't charge your phone.
Simple steps that can help drivers stay safe in the summer and year-round. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
All right, we want to take you back to the Big Island for this update. The Department of Hawaiian Homelands is urging homesteaders in Waimea and Kauai Heights to conserve water because of malfunctioning water wells in North Hawaii. Now, the 2 wells owned and operated by Kohala Ranch temporarily lost service Wednesday morning. Service is anticipated to be restored in the near future as soon as the repairs are completed, and the malfunction impacts 165 lessees and their household members. So DHHL is also asking residents to refrain from using water for outdoor irrigation uses for the time being.
And this is another live look out at Hilo, Coconut Island. As you can see, some overcast, but no major rainmakers now that Calvin is out of our woods. For more on your island weather, let's send it over to Guy Hagi.
How's it on this Thursday? We're saying bye-bye to Calvin, now down to a post-tropical low. It's far enough away and weak enough that it will not impact our weather anymore. There will be some pockets of rain coming through from time to time over the next several days. Nothing too intense. And we'll see fairly dry conditions for those leeward areas. Now, the winds behind Calvin are going to be rather breezy. We've got high pressure building to the north, and that high pressure fan is going to be anchored up to our north for the next several days. So get used to this weather picture. Lots of sunshine, a few minor splashes with those breezy winds. What we see today is expected to repeat and, hold firm all the way into next week. So beautiful stretch of weather. Surf, not so much. Biggest waves on the wind swell at 3 to 5 feet on the east side, nearly flat up in the country. So it's a long stretch of trading weather. Really nice stuff, although it is going to get a little bit warm at times. We will have those cooling breezes running at 15 to 25 miles an hour into the middle of next week. So we're in for a long stretch of the best weather on the planet.
Thank you so much, Guy. Looking forward to that best weather on the planet indeed. Time to check out some news from the feeds. And Ashley, our first story, it was going to happen sooner or later. Yep. Artificial intelligence, I told you, it's coming for our jobs, actually. Google says it's building an artificial intelligence tool for news publishers that can generate headlines and articles. Now, the tech giant says it wants to partner with news outlets on using the tools in their newsrooms. Google says the idea is to help journalists enhance their work and productivity. The New York Times reports that the project is referred to initially as Genesis. According to the paper, it has been pitched to the Times, the Washington Post, and the News Corp, which owns the Wall Street Journal. Google didn't name those media companies, but said it is particularly focusing on smaller publishers. The company said the project is not meant to replace journalists. This all comes as AI is on the rise, and many people have concerns about their use and job security. So we're just going to have to see on this one.
And this is interesting. A Florida jury has awarded a family $800,000 after a toddler was burned by sizzling hot chicken McNuggets. Now, the jury found that the McDonald's and franchise owner acted improperly in the August 29 incident. The family has been seeking $15 million for the compensation and suffering of the 4-year-old girl.
Poor thing there. But definitely be careful when you get your McDonald's. Yes. Very hot. We're going to go ahead and look at some good news now. The acronym for the greatest of all time is, of course, the word GOAT. And this may be the GOAT of stories involving a goat. Jeannie Most reports on the special bond between a horse and a goat.
Did you hear the one about the goat that got tangled in a horse's tail?
Are you stuck in his tail? How did this happen? I don't know either.
Copper the horse and Jesse the goat are friends who got entangled.
What is your theory for how this happened?
So my theory is that Copper was swatting at a fly with his tail and happened to hook Jesse's horns in it.
Teresa Goins is the owner of Orchard View Farm in Marysville, Ohio, where there's a lot of horsing around between a llama, donkeys, and horses that scratch each other. Not to mention Jessie the goat missing part of her ear after getting it caught while leaping over a barn door. And here she is, caught again, this time on Copper's tail.
Copper, you got a friend, a really close friend right now? Huh?
We'd love to show you the untangling, but Teresa stopped recording since she needed both hands to separate the two.
Well, it was in there good, I'm telling you. She had one horn wrapped this way and the other horn wrapped the opposite way. It took me a couple minutes, but I was so happy I didn't have to cut his tail.
Mission accomplished.
She is free from Copper's tail.
But not before there were a slew of jokes about the goat with an actual ponytail. I got a ponytail. This is the moment a horse and a goat learned it takes two to tangle.
Are you stuck in his tail? How did this happen?
Jeannie Most, CNN.
Oh boy, look at that. It looks like you got a new wig going on there. Thanks everyone for watching. This Is Now. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.